There will be phase to improvement when more Moldova projects will grow to bigger ones.
If you're not maintaining the core team which initially developed the product, then how are you going to get to the point where a country like Moldova has product companies?
There's a lot of projects, as we discussed, are created just to be bite out. They are not investing in themselves to become a global product.
Because of AI, we're going to build your product 60% more cheaper.
A lot of businesses was bought out by the bigger players like Facebook, Amazon, and so on.
Like, they don't ask for expertise, they ask for validation, which is the problem. Yeah.
If you can read easily the code, you can easily spot the problems.
Are code reviews a waste of time?
The developer should be lazy.
In the eyes of the business, you kind of look the same. You're delivering a feature, he's delivering a feature. He does it way faster, you're doing way slower.
I don't think I'm so unique to find a unique problem.
Where the hell are juniors? We eliminated juniors in the process.
Be attentive what loyalty you provide. Because a lot of time people can you easily betray.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of VUnstaged. And as you can tell, this is like a brand new setup and whatnot. And with a brand new setup, we have a brand new special guest. So without too much further ado, I'll head it over to him. So if you can tell us your name, what do you do for a living? And I ask this everyone, how did you get into tech? If you can tell us your story, because everyone has their own unique little interesting story.
Yes, of course. My name is Egor Boaghi. I'm a full stack developer, which is more powerful in backend part. I'm trying to be a software architect with some successes, but not always, as Moldova is a small country and there is not so many opportunities. My mainly stack is PHP. And how did I enter in programming?
Yeah.
It's one of the most interesting moments.
That's what we're here for.
Yes. I started learning at ASEM at the accounting first half of the year.
So ASEM is, like, for those who don't know, like university for like economical studies and whatnot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I started learning first half of the year on accounting. I was expecting to find there some interesting puzzles for my brain.
Yeah.
And in general, all accounting is just learning by heart all the numbers and everything else. I was very bored on it. In parallel, one of my friends from school was learning in the same ASEM at cybernetics and economic informatics.
Yeah.
And he once shared with me once of their homeworks, which he said almost nobody could do. In school, I was fine with Pascal, but when I was seeing that development environment, I was becoming afraid that whole life of programmers is working with something like that. Do you remember how the Pascal idea looked?
The blue screen?
Yes.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. I guess that's because I studied like humanitarian profile at high school. And we also used to have like Pascal classes and whatnot. And every single time you would just, like, especially on the humanitarian profile, they take it like a bit more chill. They don't overload you with a lot of classes. And every single time you would have the classes, you just have to copy paste some weird program and then try it and execute it and see what it does. Maybe change the condition of the problem a little bit. But essentially, you're doing some logical problem, but you don't really know and understand what you're solving. And how I fell in love with, let's say, the programming of today is through the web, and specifically started building interfaces, because you immediately see results. You immediately see you're building UIs. And then you connect the UI to some backend eventually, which for me, it was also PHP. But yeah, Pascal was boring. I didn't see myself doing that.
Yes, me too. And when I'm seeing a homework on C, I take it. I think Googled some of the stuff and made it, I think, into hours. It was the simplest calculator application that was doing some calcs, and it was done in terminal, and I was using Go2 at maximum. I found at my start of career that it's a perfect functionality for everything.
Turing complete language.
Then after I learned what is LOP, my vision changed. But at the start, when everything was simple, I implemented it and understood, well, people having problem with it. I, I can handle it pretty fast. Why should I not change? It looks more interesting with all this accounting.
Yeah.
So I made all the required documents and I migrated to the cybernetics and economic informatics. And I finished it. I think I was second or third on the course in the end. After that, I didn't have any work experience, and I started working in ASEM in the laboratory, where I can say that I had big results in the end because somehow I was doing an application that was already implemented in so-called 1S, 1S. I don't know how it's translated in English.
Yeah. It's like the Russian.
Yes, it's a Russian accounting system.
Yeah.
And somehow I was implementing something similar in C# because from C, C++, the most advanced next language would be C# for people learning in ASEM at that moment.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't go anything, but I learned some skills about how is the work when you should be present specific time. I was doing in parallel the master degree. It was, I think it was informational management, if to translate it correctly. It was very interesting courses, but I did not see that it somehow changed me too much as specialist, as I was a code-based person, so I remained. And after that, I had an opportunity of serious work working with PHP.
Yeah, because I was wondering how did it all get from C# to PHP?
I wanted to it, and best opportunity I could find was with PHP at that moment.
Yeah.
Well, it was not something so serious as I hoped, and people which I was working also was not so serious in the end. But I started working. I worked with PrestaShop at that moment. It was an WordPress-like system, but for online shops. I was making adjustments for some of the clients, and then a lot of not serious stuff, which I will not mention, appeared.
So you had like an NDA of sorts with them?
They wanted for me to sign that I'll have to pay them from my salary from our place half of it. I decided that I don't want to work with these people.
Yeah.
So I started finishing my master degree work, and in parallel, me contacted our colleague. I think you remember Timofey Pendus.
Yeah.
So he was at that moment starting working as director of development aid.
Yeah.
And I was fixing for our common friend one PHP site. He observed me that I can work. They had all the stack in PHP, so they invited me. And here already started my serious work where I could discover all my skills and perfect them.
Yeah.
I understood that I like a lot of organization in code. I liked the book Clean Code, so I started investing in teaching people in the team how to use it more efficiently.
Interesting story about especially the NDA thing, because I never heard of somebody being given an NDA for like giving away. You said you were supposed to give away half of your salary if you were to be hired for future companies?
Yes.
Was it for like a specific term limit?
Yes, something like that, 2 years or something like that.
Still. I mean, I've seen weird non-compete clauses in contracts, but none of them. They typically have like some kind of penalty, but that's pretty much it.
Some people are saying to me that they cannot apply it in reality. It's not legally correct.
Yeah,
but
it's
why should I work with this kind of organization which wants from me?
Yeah, but that
rules?
tells you, that right there tells you everything about that company.
Yes.
Yeah. Really interesting story. I'll say that. But I'm not saying this to say that I don't wish it for it to continue. I'm just saying it smells like wine in the air. So I must introduce the wines. So for today, the drink of choice is red wine, as I like it to be, and I prefer as much as possible. And we have two. We're representing the country today. We have two Moldovan grapes, at least, from two different wineries. One of them is Gitana. The other one is, I think it's Asconi. And one of them is Rara Neagră. The other one is Fetească Neagră.
Okay.
So really good stuff. So without too much further ado, let's have a sip of the wine. I think it was the one from Gitana. And then we'll try the next one. And then we can kick off the rest of the many interesting topics we want to dive into.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just have a sip of Gitana. I don't exactly remember. Is it Fetească or Rara Neagră? But really good stuff.
Yes.
I haven't tried this one yet. But yeah, I can confirm Sol Negro is really good. So yeah. Really interesting story. What time was it when you moved to PHP at the time? Because I think PHP at the time was like the hottest thing, at least on the Moldovan market.
Something like that, I would say. It was still not the highest salaries, but there's a lot of work to do for it. I think it was 26 or
2006?
15.
15. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Those are the hot times.
PHP 5.6 already was released. Majority of people were using it, but for 7 it was few more years.
Was it PHP 4 that people were complaining about?
Yes, it was horrible. It was it didn't have any object-oriented functionality. Everything was just
you're supposed to call
script.
like functions and stuff.
Yes, it was everything function.
Yeah.
A small note: you already had a guest, which was Anton Perkin. I had a break working for Development Aid company.
Yeah.
And I worked for Anton for 1 year and a bit.
Yeah.
And I had to work with a company which had the basic core written in PHP 4, in which they were pushing PHP 5.6 functionalities. Then I understood that there is a lot of work in this world for PHP programmers.
Yeah, it's, what was it? Was it 80% of at least the e-commerce out there online still relying on PHP?
There is still a high number, and just now it's easier to find alternatives. And new projects rarely will come working in PHP if they are not startups which want something fast. One of the main ideas with PHP that you don't need to create yourself an entire server. You need just to write a code for your application as via Nginx or Apache with already handling all the request stuff.
Yeah, the beautiful, like, I would say, nature of the dynamically typed languages is you have this idea of I'm writing the code, and the code that I'm writing is also the code that's going to be, let's say, interpreted / executed. Whereas with other languages, you have something which compiles to a binary or machine code or whatever the hell it's called. And then you deploy that and you lose the source code. And you have this instance where you have like banks which have binaries that are running, but they don't have the source code, original source code for that. But at the same time, you have weird other problems. Because you mentioned like the development of PHP, and it wasn't very beautiful. A lot of people shit on PHP still, saying it's not good, but it really got really good, especially with the version 7, I believe.
Yes, from version 7, almost 7.1, it became useful. It will become everything that you wanted.
Yeah, it became more like Java most.
It started all this way. All the evolution of PHP was stealing someone else's ideas.
Yeah,
I would say it in this way. Generators from Python, the attributes from Java in the version 8, static typing from other languages.
Is it true static typing, or it's more like TypeScript type of static typing?
It's true static if you configure it like that. By default, it's true static, but you can
so you
at any moment
like
disable it and it won't care.
So you need to configure like the php.ini, that thing?
By default, it's configured, but you can disable it.
Yeah.
It's true true typing, which come with cost of speed, because it checks your type when it processes it.
So it's doing it in real time, you're saying?
Yes, it has some internal logic, which is not PHP, is already.
But I think it
I
should
think-
have like some kind of, I don't know, some kind of JIT compiler or whatever to detect like the hot paths and whatnot.
Yes, it uses JIT compiler, which compiles it in binary code, but it still remains read and die code.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there already exists version like Franken PHP, which could keep it as working process, and you'll wait just when it will die from memory leaks.
Yeah.
Because nobody optimized PHP to be proofless for memory leaks, but it's already a lot more powerful than it was before. Just not everyone will use it because it also requires some configuration, service, and need in it. If you find processing request and dying, then simple PHP is enough for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, simple PHP is what I would say kickstarted the web as we know it when we all started from like building HTML pages, tables, everything was tables left and right.
Oh, the hard times.
Yeah. And then we slowly got into more, let's say, capable server side languages. Then the web also evolved. You have JavaScript, you have a lot of stuff being pulled and done by JavaScript. And then you have Node.js, which came along, and then everybody started shitting even more on PHP, saying, hey, we should.
Yes, why we should.
Yeah.
All front end developers who was working only with JavaScript become, let's say, in a year also a backend developers, which
But
could.
the funny thing is, we keep going back to like the new shit is the old forgotten shit. Basically, the new technology, especially like if you follow the JavaScript community, the front end communities, you start having these new trends with like server rendered components
Oh yes,
and whatnot. And if you really start spinning like the wheels of your brain, you're like, yeah, but aren't we going back to PHP in a way?
I fully agree with you.
Yeah, except
Just-
that the syntax is different.
Yes, but the real problem is, yes, we want a lot of JavaScript that will work fine, but this page will load an eternity. Let's do something with that. And what they can do, they can reproduce PHP with help of Node.js on this part.
Have they improved because I remember PHP had this problem with concurrency. And you had to rely on the concurrent model of the, let's say, server you deployed PHP on. And you had to use like Nginx something to make it more performant because Apache was just way too bad.
It remained the same, and Nginx with FPM is the faster solution. But as I said, there is already version like Franken PHP, which allows you to keep a process with PHP, which will be kept alive.
How do they handle concurrency? Like, do they spin, like, how do they scale, let's say, processes, or like, how does it even work? Do you scale a process per request, or like how does it work at the moment?
I'm not sure how they are doing because it's fully internal in implementation of these servers applications, which are binary. You cannot really take their code and understand it.
You, I guess, at some point run into performance issues where you have like, let's say like an application of a big scale, have loads of requests. At some point, you either start running out of open files or threads or something. Like the system will eventually give up on you. What's that limitation? Is my question. I'm just wondering because it's been such a while since I've been following the PHP community. I think I left when Laravel was coming up, being quite popular.
Well, Laravel is still very popular. In some ways, he beats Symfony. Just Symfony is a lot more stable, and there are a lot of projects built in it which needs maintenance.
Yeah.
Symfony evolved a lot from a big application that's doing everything to more microservice one.
Interesting. I want to touch on something you mentioned in the beginning. You mentioned that you're leaning more towards software architecture and the fact that Moldova is not necessarily the best place for that. Can you maybe explain why?
Well, software architecture include outside of just deciding how code should work, which in general is not just a single person, is a team effort. Just someone with more experience can help to identify the best way how to handle it, to resolve some of the code conflicts and so on. In general, in Moldova, there are not so many companies where a person with this kind of experience would be needed and would be accepted to work because, well, we have a team, they somehow work. Why we should enter in this?
But do you think it's like a Moldovan thing, or rather, let's say the chaotic nature of software, especially let's say startups where you need to quickly land on the market and then you maintain this quick pace, and you don't realize that you don't actually allocate time to make things better?
I would say that it is both because for there is no need in software architect when where it is a initial project. It's a thing what happens when project grow,
Yeah.
and there is a lot of sub applications and other parts we need to communicate and needs to work one with another. At this point, a software architect comes in handy because he keeps responsibility to ensure that everything works. One with another, how another ideas would be introduced, and he keeps responsibility on it.
I would say it has to do with maybe the nature of projects you're working on. So if you take the Moldovan market, a lot of what's happening here is outsource. In two types, there are like two types of outsource. You have like the startup type kind of outsource, because investors come in here because it's because of cheap labor, right, primarily. And you have that kind of outsource. The other kind of outsource is where you have like templated kind of outsource. We have projects using the same template, like for example WordPress projects and whatnot. So they're doing essentially the same thing, push it, the same thing, deliver, the same thing. They don't care.
Yes, I know.
Like there's no
Companies like that.
architecture there. It's just the same thing,
Yep.
different context, different pictures, different whatever. And I would say architecture comes more into play maybe when you have something of a bigger scale or something that has evolved to be a product, a successful one.
Yes.
And yeah, I can say I understand that idea. At the same time, wondering whether there's place for growth in this area and improvement.
Well, there will be place to improvement when more Moldova projects will grow to bigger ones. There is not so many at the moment, and most of them are financed from exterior, and they do not accept more people. Let's say
When you say they don't accept more people, you mean they don't accept people as architects?
something like that. They could have or their architect from another country,
Yeah.
which created the project itself, the idea and how it should work, and he is managing it. Or it could be already a company which started, and software architect will be promoted from their internal people who worked from beginning with it.
Are you saying there's like, because I have my own opinion on this matter, but are you
Mhm.
saying there's like discrimination in this sense?
It's an option when you need to have more experience to be able to compete with these kind of positions.
Yeah.
But to get this kind of experience, you need to
Yeah, but
work in a bigger company.
let me give you my picture maybe. So you have a project idea, right? You're from, I don't know, fucking Germany. You're from Sweden. You're from a country with notoriously known wealthy country where you have some budget, you want to spend it, but you want to spend it in a smart way. And you start researching the market. Where are the cheapest, I don't know, PHP developers, Java developers, any kind of developers? And you see it's showing you it's Eastern Europe. It's showing you Moldova, Ukraine, Romania, stuff like that, right? So you start looking into on the Moldovan market, you find a bunch of cheap engineers. Now, I like my problem with it is if you give them the responsibility of developing the product, why not just also give them the responsibility of architecting that software? Because
Yes,
it's not like they're keeping the software for them.
Yes, I
They have
understand.
NDAs and everything.
Yes, but at the start, when nobody's software architect because it's just starting product.
Yeah.
And after this product evolve, there is more chances that they will promote a person from the starting team to become the software engineer when we'll get someone from extra.
Yeah, like most projects, I would say startups are not successful. At some point they fail sooner or later.
Or are bought by bigger companies to reduce the
Yeah, but that's also, I would say, some kind of, you could call it success for the people who sold it out. You could call it a potential failure for the people working still for the company because they might be laid off, they might have restructure in place and whatnot. So in some kind of way, it's still a loss. But my point is, if you're not maintaining the core team which initially developed the product, then how are you going to get to the point where a country like Moldova has product companies, where architecture is actually a thing which is a need of?
I agree with you. There
Yeah,
is a
that's
big problem on the market on this part. There's a lot of projects, as we discussed, are created just to be bite out. They are not investing in themselves to become a global product. Most easier way to start a successful business is to start it in America, from what was observed.
to start it or to like get funding. What are you saying?
Uh, I mean to have a start from America, getting funding, organizing it as an American company where labor will be. It doesn't matter so much
I would say I agree with the, let's say, financial / legal part.
because if you're already American company, doesn't matter. If your workers are from Moldova, from another part, you have a lot of more opportunities to grow mm, over the world.
Yeah, like my issue is like every single time I have my own idea, I'm like doing the math. I'm not sure if you ever run into this where you have your own ideas as engineers. We typically do have our own ideas, especially when we see like the trends online, people creating micro SaaS and whatnot. And you have your own idea, and because you think like an engineer, you start doing the math. How much time is it going to take for you to build like the whole system, and then push it out, and then you start calculating like the market approval. Does it, like, do people actually need the software and whatnot? And in the end, your idea actually dies. At the same time, let's say your idea is successful. How much, like, for how long are you going to run it? For how long are you going to burn money to sustain it before it actually takes off? That's another question. And yeah, like what I find a bit complicated is the reason why we're doing a lot of outsource is because we don't have access. We don't have easy access to funding, right?
Yes,
Not a lot of people take risks in that sense. Let's say if you had funding easier, like, I don't know, VC funds or any kind of funds, accelerator programs and whatnot, then you would have more people at least trying to take risks. But because we don't, then what we're doing is we're essentially like China back in the day. We're just doing the labor and somebody else is collecting the results of the fruits. And yeah, that's the state of the affairs.
at least right now is like this. We still can hope that one project will be a unique idea which won't be bought out because a lot of businesses was bought out by the, the bigger players like Facebook, Amazon, and so on.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I was wondering what else would you say is the problem on the Moldovan market? And when I ask this question, I'm referring to like how does it keep on growing? Because at the moment I see like not stagnation, but more like a burnt bridge between us who already are in the industry and, let's say, the younger generation, like juniors and whatnot. Like, what do you? Because I assume you've worked in your entire career with juniors. You probably had some frustration around that. Like, what's, especially nowadays with the whole, let's say, AI boom, the last 3 years, the generation of juniors probably is way different than the ones that were back in the day, ourselves included. What would you say is the biggest struggle they face and maybe the pain point for you?
Sincerely, for last 2 years, we didn't get new people because of the global market changes, and it's not entirely related to AI, but in general, but some political moments affected a lot the market. The company in which I'm working right now is very dependent of the external uh, financing agencies, which had a big loss previous year,
Yeah.
from which we could not get more people. In general, in my own vision, let's exclude what is happening right now. I consider in a team should always be a junior, which should learn in the process. So company and the junior himself to understand does he like this, and company to understand if he is the person who can grow.
But what are
And
the like what are the let's say, main pain points when it comes to their growth? Because a lot of, let's say, companies, management within companies, they push this idea of we need to deliver fast, use LLMs for that, try to be as productive as you possibly can, and in the process of doing that, you lose the forensics, the discovery, the problem solving, the critical thinking. You outsource a lot of that to LLMs in the process. Even seniors, I would say, do that. And I'm wondering, how is that affecting juniors?
At the moment, it's not my experience, but I'm also speaking with other developers, with other managers. Uh, there are some people who was very powerful development, and when they got this tool, customized LLM, which was generating code.
Yeah.
This guy lost everything. He just forgot how to code. He was pushing everything in it and receiving some results. And these results was not perfect.
Yeah.
But the guy became too lazy to handle it.
Do you get, like, because I do get that way sometimes, but do you get to, let's say, inherit code from people and you immediately recognize this is generated by an LLM? This is fucking annoying. Why didn't this guy put more time into validating this result, into polishing it a little bit? Like, do you get those moments? Because I tend to like have from time to time such moments where I immediately realize that the guy didn't even remove the supplementary comments which the LLM adds for you to like help you understand what's going on.
We did not have this kind of experience right now, but
Yeah.
we are starting to have. At least myself, I started. We do not use a lot of time the LLMs for this purpose. I was waiting to see what will happen because the first version was not really good. Uh, I think somewhere in January, I already invested some time to produce a working solution, and I used ChatGPT assistance
Yeah.
to find at March that this approach is deprecated and will be removed in 1 year. But it was a working solution which can be applied right now. But we already migrated to Copilot, and it is handling a lot of routine stuff. Uh, I have already a lot of unit tests and other functionality, which I have examples. I provided him code which was created by myself or even generated by VSLM and asking it, please now cover it with unit tests based on this example.
Yeah. Yeah. Does it mess up often?
Well, with unit tests, it was not so perfect. I once had to fix, I think, half of it because I mentioned all the points which are important and is absolutely ignored. But in sometimes it is doing pretty good job, and with fewer messages, it provides me final result.
What would you say is your, let's say, productivity increase in terms of percentage? Because a lot of people, especially like company leaders and whatnot, they push this idea of, hey, because of AI, we're gonna build your product 60% more cheaper because actually labor is cheaper because we're using agents and whatnot, and we can afford to give you a discount. As a result, our profits are bigger, your price is smaller, and everybody wins except for developers.
Sincerely, if you don't care about the quality,
Yeah.
it's possible to achieve 60%. I don't know how it will work because I don't think the people who creating this kind of fast solution care.
Yeah.
But if you want a qualitative solution, at maximum, I have observed is somewhere 20% improvement because I don't need to write some unit tests because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
all classically the same. I would say from my experience, I am missing the way to customize these lamps a lot.
I mean, it depends how you use it, I guess, because if you use the API, you obviously can customize it a bit more. If you use like
Yes, but
the classical GUI,
yes, but
or
it's still limited. I'm using also JetBrains as you,
yeah,
from what I have observed from previous videos, and it's allows Copilot integration, which allows I think somewhere till 20 files in the request. Sometimes it's not so much, and it's still learned by a lot of code written by different people who was naming everything service. If it is Laravel, it's using all its helpers, which sometimes are time loss. Because if you open any Laravel helper, you'll find there are 80 operations that could be done by one liner.
Yeah.
But Laravel should work with everything that you provide to him, so he prepares. When you have all the control, why don't you use just an array combine instead of array helper?
You mentioned something very interesting, and I was wondering, how do you personally see that concept? So you mentioned this idea of yes, it can increase productivity, but maybe not 60%, or if it's 60%, quality is going to be what's going to suffer.
Yes,
Can you can you define what does quality mean for you personally in terms of writing, maintaining, and developing a software?
on my side,
Yeah.
as I am a clean coder, I understand that code should be readable, maintainable by it, so it should be really easy to understand how it works and what it is doing. It's impossible to have bugless code, but it should tend to it.
Yeah.
If you can read easily the code, you can easily spot the problems.
But some would argue that's not important. Like you'd
It's
have companies saying, we don't care about your principles, we want features, right? So how do you sell this idea of code should be readable, maintainable, and whatever that means? Because that's obviously like a term which can be interpreted. Like something which is readable to you might not be readable to somebody else. And something which is maintainable to you is not important at all for somebody else or for the business.
in general, here is two different moments. One of them, companies which don't care. You
Yeah,
cannot change companies that don't care.
right.
You can have only arguments when it has sense to make refactoring both of them. One of them is time of development. You can use a, let's say, shitty approach, which was used for last 2 years, to add the functionality in 2 months. Let's say it's virtually saying. Or you can refactor it in 1 month and do it in 2 weeks.
But how do you avoid this idea of, because like at what point you go into a project, let's say it's a project you've been working for the last 6 months or so, and at what point you go, I'm just going to close my eyes, I know this is not the part, my favorite part of the project, I'll just close my eyes, I'll do whatever I need to do to make the business happy, versus I'm just going to confront the business, the management, and tell them we need to refactor this. And the other problem with refactoring is you cannot sell refactoring standalone, right? You need to typically, like, you need to sneak some features in the deliverables so that you're able to do refactoring actually, because uh, like any developer in your position might come in and say, hey, I don't like to work with this, fuck it, I'll just refactor it. And like, how do you sell this idea? Because like, when do you balance between, hey, I want to refactor the whole thing, I don't care what they say, versus I'll just close my eyes, I'll do whatever it is, and I'll forget about that dark side.
On this point, one of the important moments on my side, as I think Bill Gates said, the developer should be lazy. But should not be just lazy to give everything to them. It should be lazy to not do same work multiple times. One of these points is that refactoring allows to avoid this kind of repeatable code, to have a solution which is really easy extensible, adding new functionality which doesn't take you to re-implement everything that was already done. Here helps a lot of common sense from your perspective. You are saying, okay, I can do it. In the old way, I'll have a lot of pain and it will take me X time. If you see that if you refactor, it will be a lot easier for you to do it now and in any next time, then is a moment when you can push and explain that with this opportunity you'll have productivity increase. I had this kind of experience not too much long time ago. There was a functionality which was deciding which of the fields are visible, which are not.
Yeah.
It was a correct working tree structure in the database with uh, with a good endpoint. It was working solution. But now comes a moment when I need to add more fields there. And what it happens, I need to create three migrations. making a lot of relationships for all the data which won't change in any time.
Yeah.
So instead, I pushed a possibility to refactor it to a simpler way where I'm keeping in the database just flag and key saying, is this visible or not? And all the tree structure is in a file which make you visible everything, not free for tables, which you need to navigate through Vault to understand what with what related, but a tree structure where you see that these items come from this model to this block, from this block come to this field. So you have all the vision in one single file, and this data is not changeable. Nobody will ever edit it. If you have to edit it, it will be once in a year. And it's still easier instead of someone to go to the database, which final user won't do, you to do it by yourself.
Yeah, like the problem with refactoring is at what point you, let's say, try to stay within the boundaries of the scope because you have a deadline. Obviously, you don't want to extend this for months or weeks, even depends on the company, I guess. And you also have like the I don't know the context which you're affecting. Like you don't want to affect the entire application, have thousands of lines in the pull request, and then nobody knows what they're actually looking for.
But most likely you will use this opportunity only on smaller stuff if you have strict deadlines.
Yeah.
One of the things which is written in the clean code that you should use a Boy Scout rule. You should leave code that you touch in better shape than it was before. It doesn't mean you need everything to refactor, but you could make smaller improvements. For example, to see what logic which you are working could in the front end could be extracted in a smaller component. Creating a smaller component doesn't take you days, it takes you a few hours. You can improve it and after use this solution. A lot of these moments come with experience when you see and can visually estimates more faster how much time you need to do it.
So typically in applications, there's like a small part which pulls another small part, which pulls another small part, and then you have this chain of reaction, and it ends up affecting the whole thing. And at that point, you need to do the math and in your mind calculate that, like, if I'm doing this refactoring, it's gonna take a lot of time. It's gonna affect a lot of code base. Maybe let's do it somehow, and then we'll come up with like a technical debt ticket where we can actually do just refactoring.
Sometimes happen like this. Sometimes you are finding a way to split it in smaller changes. For example, you have a big chunk which has a lot of relationships on it. It has, let's say, very high coupling.
Yeah.
And instead, you are finding a way, okay, we can decouple this service, we can decouple this service. In this case, as I am touching this part of functionality, I'll use 2-3 hours and we'll decouple this a small part, or we'll use an interface for future refactoring of it and we'll make a start. Because a lot of works start with smaller steps, and after that, in the big picture, every of them will matter.
Since we started opening this Pandora box, I guess fuck it, I'll just ask. Like a lot of these principles when it comes to clean code, architecture, maintainability, and whatnot, typically end up being let's call them conflicts and whatnot in code reviews. So I want to touch on code reviews maybe, because that's where a lot of these visions come into clash and to battle. I wanna first ask how important it is to have code reviews in 2025, because you see this trend where people don't even ask for code reviews, they ask for code approvals. Can you approve this? They don't say, can you review this? Can you test this? Can you let me know what's your opinion on this? Like they don't ask for expertise, they ask for validation, which is the problem. So question number one is, do you think code reviews are still relevant, important for a successful product?
I would say that code review is still relevant, especially from the clean code view. For a small moment, I was thinking maybe I'm a bit different on this part, and I have a wrong vision. But after I found a channel from Victor Rentia, he is a consultant from Romania, which is also clean code promoter. he also is saying an important thing. In big companies, in big projects, there could be an approach where all the code will look as it was written by a single person. In this way, you achieve predictability, consistency, and it will be a lot easier to maintain. If you know if every solution is solved in a way, you'll have to fix something there, you'll know what and where to search.
Yeah, but inevitably you work in a team. You're not the only person who works in the team. You have your own opinion of something, and somebody has another opinion of something. At the same time, there's I would say, a big part of people which are not the strongest advocate for clean code, at least not all the principles of it.
Mhm.
And you might run into clashes, right? You might say, I think this is the right way. You say, this is the right way. Somebody else might join you and say, I agree with you. Or they might say, I actually don't agree with you. Like, how do you solve these conflicts outside code reviews? And like, do you take it to the code review? And are code reviews a waste of time? Some people say they might actually be a waste of time. We don't need to waste time on code reviews. We could have like an AI and whatnot review our code, and then we just fix the minor stuff. Like, what's your approach? What's your opinion on this one?
In my opinion, as I said, from my clean code, I would want to have a code which will look as it was written by a single person because it was easier to maintain. But I know,
Depends which person. If you
well,
mean
if
if
you,
by the same person you mean you, then some people might disagree.
of course, someone
Yeah.
could disagree on this part. It all depends from the level of vision and other stuff, but it provides uh, a lot of help in the maintainability. And yes, you will not write as a junior code, for example, because it would be a chaos if everyone would have to write as junior.
How does junior code look like? Because you
Uh,
mentioned this idea, and
well, junior code, most likely, the new guy doesn't know, first of all the rules. Second one, he doesn't know too much about the ecosystem, the framework, the language.
yeah, but let's say like both you and the new guy, the junior, are kind of equal. Maybe the only thing that's not equal is the expertise and the
Mhm.
pay which you're getting. So in the eyes of the business, you kind of look the same. You're delivering a feature, he's delivering a feature. He does it way faster, you're doing way slower. He has less principles, if any at all. You have a shit ton of them. Like for the business, which one is I would say more
Uh,
valuable in this case?
it's very interesting to have a junior which delivering a lot faster,
Yeah.
working in the new environment. It's a small paradox, but maybe it happens. Most likely, if a junior, it takes for him a lot more time to produce something. To have someone faster than, let's say, a senior, most likely it should be a middle, but yes, he can cut corners because he know what he can cut to achieve the final result.
Yeah.
Juniors most likely won't have the same productivity as the seniors.
Including the fact that they have access to a whole bunch of LLMs. They
Uh,
might throw in context. Like the problem I had back in the day
mhm.
was context, and asking questions was like the only way you could ask a question is Stack Overflow, GitHub issues, and in real life, right? And for pretty much all the cases, you would get bashed. Either that's a stupid question, or you didn't ask the right guy, or the right guy wasn't in the mood. Like you don't have that with LLMs, and I would say that's where the juniors of today can take advantage of what they have.
Since I still am using the Stack Overflow and other sources, but I'm not asking questions. I'm always finding my questions somewhere there because I don't think I'm so unique to find a unique problem. Every problem was already encountered by someone else. So I am finding it somewhere in older
It
messages.
depends. It depends what kind of problems. Like if you're dealing with, let's say, cutting edge solutions, like let's say you're, I don't know, you're always integrating with the Facebook API.
Mhm.
As we all know, it's always buggy, always changing,
Yep.
always pushing new shit. And if you're dealing with that, then it's going to be a nightmare. And most likely you're going to be the lab rat. Most likely they're going to experiment on you. In that case, every problem is a valid problem. And you don't, if you're talking about like software solutions, like software issues, let's say I don't know, a library which has a bug. And yeah, in that case, you're right. Like probably somebody already reported it. You just need to look for the right answer. But do you really need to look for anything these days when you have browsers which use AI, you have LLMs which index a lot of context, including searching the web? Like,
I don't know. Problems which I encountered. The recommendation for AI was pretty, let's say, not qualitative.
are you an AI, let's say, optimist or pessimist?
Previous year I was a pessimist. This year I'm a bit more optimistic about it, but I am not sure that it will remain in the same way as it is now. I think or the costs will grow because it's still a bubble and it's not clear what will happen when the bubble will broke.
What makes you the costs will grow up? Is it lack of innovation maybe, and the fact that money went into it and
Uh,
they need
I
to start selling?
I think at a specific moment the money which was invested in it will end and they will have to cover it from the users. I am not sure that the sum, for example, I'm paying for Copilot, is covering all the electricity costs and so on. I think right now it is more ad where people can try it. So when the price will grow, they will be ready to pay it because they made them work differently.
But you can run your models locally too. You like install a server somewhere in a closet, you pay the electricity bill, which you already do anyway, and you can deploy latest Gemini or whatever, and you have AI on tap, no subscription, everything is private at home. Like,
One of the things that they are selling is that this LLM learned everything. It
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah.
already learned with all the data which they consider relevant. My personal opinion, if I would have more time to invest in this stuff, I would make better my LLM using code because, well, I like code with a specific style, which makes it easier to maintain. And one of these things that makes it easier to maintain is if you know what and how you're working faster.
You
When you
mentioned
need to lose time to understand how works this part, how works this part. If it is predictable, it's a lot faster.
one interesting thing, and I also have this problem, I guess. Uh, AI generated code which follows a standard or some principles. That being said, I have a question from a person you know. He wanted me to ask you this, and the question is how well does AI align with your coding principles? And how well does it follow those principles? Where the code it generates looks somewhat of the code you would say is acceptable and you would just inherit versus you would just change everything and not like it.
If the code is consistent, you have one approach, then using a correct rag or correct context for the code provides you similar solution. You don't have to change everything. Sometimes this happens some moments which you cannot explain all the business logic to the AI. For example, for a specific field, you could have a different rule which applies only there. On this kind of part, you'll have to adapt. But in general way, it can produce a code which will look similar with what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Um, let's say in general way, it could generate a service. Let's say I'm mostly right now working with CRUD services because it's a lot of businesses which are based on the information which they store, and they all pretty standardized. To generate this kind of service, I can do in maximum 3 prompts. I ask it to generate me based on some examples, which was created manually.
When you say service, you mean like the layered architecture service where you have services, repos, controllers, and whatnot?
Yes, something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Let's say
Yeah.
something that is doing, it's not controller, but something that is doing some work.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, writing in database.
I
Let's
guess it depends. I would say how easily maintainable that code is and how decoupled it is. Because the moment you add in dependencies, the more dependencies you have, the harder for AI is to have to know what call because he doesn't know that you have this or that dependency.
Yes, this is one of the point when you're making clean code, you have not so much coupling. Your classes are smaller, they keep single responsibility. It's a lot easier even for AI to copy it.
True, if you depend on abstractions, then AI knows there's this interface which has this. I don't care where it gets it and how, like what's the real implementation as long as it follows the interface, you could say.
So there is a lot of benefit if you have a good uh, source for it. So it could reproduce code which you almost want. As I said, there are still some specific experience which you cannot explain to AI that when the moon is on the second cycle, it should increment a value 2 times, let's say something like that.
So, would you say that your experience with AI, let's say for the past 1 year, has moved from more negative to more positive, or
Yes.
it stayed the same?
It's more positive, just I understood where I can use it.
Yeah.
Because at the start, previous year, a lot of people were pushing it everywhere.
Yeah.
There's making a lot of bad solutions because they are trying to fix everything with it.
Yeah.
In general, AI works better with smaller tasks and tasks which include a very specific reason.
Yeah.
I also was starting thinking, okay, I have an infrastructure which, for example, for CRUD, I have this kind of classes. As I said, it's consistent. On all places, I'm using same approach with all classes. I was asking it to generate me the full approach. It was ending a lot of times when they're saying, now here, complete yourself.
The way I typically like to do it is I like to first narrow down the solution and then I develop it in a different prompt. So I say, give me possible solutions for solving this problem. And he's like, okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, bullshit. I like this one. Develop this one. But I don't do it in the same prompt because what happens is you have context drift and whatnot. And it's going to try to hallucinate sometimes and try to fantasize and enrich. Like it's going to try to use the previous context as the context for the current prompt.
Yes,
And I just copy what he gave me in a new prompt, develop this idea. For example, I don't know, I'm supposed to use a new algorithm or I'm supposed to, I don't know, let's say I've been, I don't know, working on some database schema and we went back and forth, back and forth. In the end, I know the schema. I'm just pasting it in a new prompt. Here's the schema, do this. And he's going to give me like a service or a CRUD or whatever, which was way faster than if I had to do it all within the same prompt.
Yes, I agree on this part.
Yeah.
Well, smaller tasks help a lot to AI to provide you solution which you intend.
But
Because
that's
if you're
how we
asking-
also operate. That's how we as engineers also operate. Like if you take a huge feature, like if you try to think about the solutions of how I can build this whole entire thing, it's probably you're gonna miss a lot of things. A lot of things might not be fully implemented, but if you like chunk it down to very small tasks, it's easier for you to understand what you're doing, what's like the roadmap, at what point you are, and where you should be next.
What I can add about this point on the AI, it's for me personally, I'm working also as a small team lead. I have a small team right now, and it could generate for me code as written by a middle developer.
How would you define senior, middle, junior in like, let's say you had one defining quality? What's a defining quality for a junior, for a middle? Because my problem is understanding where does the middle fucking come in? Because when I see job postings like we're looking for a middle, like what's a fucking middle? Is that a senior for less pay?
The senior is a person who is independent. He can solve issues by himself. He receives tasks. He can organize all the workflow and provide something in the end.
Yeah.
I would say middle is someone who needs some help to organize his work, but he knows already the framework, the language. He can easily solve complex tasks with some help from a senior. And the junior is someone which doesn't have enough experience or in the language itself or in the framework which we are working right now.
Yeah.
Because he is missing something. He cannot do something by himself. He asks the middle, he asks the senior to explain him some stuff, or he has a lot of to read to identify.
But do they
issue.
have to? Do they have to nowadays? Because that's like that used to be the definition back in the day before AI, right? That really used to be the definition of junior, middle, senior, right? But nowadays, if you take this idea of everybody can like have any kind of knowledge with the help of a few prompts, then only like really the missing piece of the puzzle is the business context. So if you know the business context as a junior, let's say, and you know how to properly articulate your thoughts so you get some technical solutions even though you don't fully understand them, you might say that the produced result amounts to the same effort which a senior would have put. Like the solution will not be that different. Maybe the only thing that's going to be different is the actual expertise and maybe a little bit more business context.
I will disagree a bit here because of the final product of AI will not align with the full image. Say it will generate you a result which, let's say, junior could explain what to do, but how it will come integrating. I think the AI for the moment has a bit limited options to be integrated in the project. For example, 20 files for a project of, let's say, thousands of files. It cannot see the full context.
True.
Which a senior having experience working on this system would already see, okay, this part won't work correctly. We need here to apply something else. And he can write to AI to fix this one because he knows that there will be a problem from his experience. So it could be similar in if the middle, which also worked a lot on the project. Maybe middle won't observe all what can happen, but it also can fix this kind of issue. Junior is have limited knowledge and he cannot integrate in a bigger projects. For the fast projects which needs to deliver yesterday, it's a fast solution which a junior can provide. How many bugs? I don't think the final client is interested at this moment. He wants to sell. He wants to have a solution which needs to be sold.
Obviously, distinction between like juniors, middles, and seniors. My problem with the job market at the moment is every single time, because there's so many seniors who have been laid off. I'm not going to talk about middle and juniors. Effectively, juniors are competing with seniors, and when you say, like, when you see a job posting that they are looking for middle developers, in my mind immediately I'm doing the conversion of the message, which is like, we're looking for seniors, or we're looking for, let's say, middle/junior salaries, but for people with senior experience, which is what happens out there. It's quite brutal.
Current situation, yes, but in general, not all seniors will agree to work for this kind of money.
Yeah, but if there's somebody who is lowing, like the beauty of the capitalist society is there's always somebody who's going to ask for less, and that's who you're going to pick as a company.
Yes.
Yeah, and the weird part is, like, a lot of mediocrity is being built up. Mediocrity in hiring, mediocrity in company culture, mediocrity in software. I'm not going to talk about software because so much software is being pushed by AI these days, and a lot of it is buggy. It's unmaintainable, and you even have non-technical people building products, and then they realize, okay, we're on the market now. I need some senior guys who's gonna pick up this shit and try to make it better, try to make it more scalable, maintainable, and whatnot. And in the process, you're like, okay, where the hell are juniors? We eliminated juniors in the process. So who needs juniors these days? You mentioned that it's important for juniors to be at least like to infiltrate juniors into teams so they can pick up the matter, the subject of software engineering. But how do they get the chance to do that?
Unfortunately, it doesn't depend from the developers themselves. It depends from organization. Not organizations right now are seeing value in it. I think they'll come back to it maybe in 5 years when all the AI bubble.
You think it's a bubble?
For the moment, yes, because the investments are too high and the value is not so. Yes, it changed the game,
Yeah.
but there are billions of dollars there, and not all this money costs like that. Doesn't provide this kind of change. So something will pop up, but what is not clear.
Who's gonna pay the price?
Most likely people who invested in it.
Yeah, that's because it reminds me of the real estate boom.
Yes.
The 2008, I think, the Great Depression and whatnot, when everything collapsed, but like the bubble built up. I'm not sure if it's a bubble, to be honest. Like, on the one hand, yes, I am anti trends. I don't like trends, especially when you just try to mind your fucking business and you try to scroll Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever social media, and you just see ads everywhere. It doesn't matter what's the subject. It's gonna, like, in some form or another, it's gonna push AI down your throat. It's going to say you're missing out. It's going to say you'll be replaced. And you mentioned software architect in the beginning. And I'm not sure if you've seen these kinds of ads on Facebook or not, but there's like a lot of ads trying to push the idea that it's no longer important, or at some point software engineers will not be required, and like the only job that will be required is software architect. And my only question in my head is like, how the fuck do you even become a software architect if you haven't been a software engineer? Like, how do you even pick that, let's say, profession? Because you need a certain level of expertise. You need to have seen a lot of problems. You need to have seen software, written software.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
You need also to create something, to participate in creation, because nobody starts as mid or senior. Everyone
True.
starts from junior.
True.
You need to start working something smaller, participate in creating something bigger from it, and then you already will have all required skills and understanding how you can create something else. It's still a lot of learning. You cannot, if all your experience will be just work experience, then you'll be producing everything in the same way. So-called gold hammer rule, if I'm not wrong, which is anti-pattern in development. So outside of experience, you need to learn to see all other visions. There is a lot of good books which provides you alternative ways of solving problems. And combining on your own experience and problems which are encountered by other people, you can already provide a better solution for any new application, for your existing one, let's say rewriting to microservices or anything else.
When it comes to building software, how important is, because there's like a lot of trends. At least that's how you and I started, right? When you work on a small thing, you, I don't know, read an article or a book about some new patterns, design patterns, ways of solving problems. But obviously, you have your own project you're working on, or the project that's like paying the bills and whatnot. You don't see that pattern there. Maybe the project is old, maybe it's legacy. How important is to not come up with reinventing the wheels, not come up with solutions of fixing the problem which doesn't exist, and how important is to focus on actually delivering business value instead of saying, let's implement this design pattern which I learned about or studied just because it's cool, just because it's nice, just because it's like a best practice and whatnot. Maybe that project doesn't need it. Maybe that problem doesn't exist. Maybe you haven't hit the performance issue which you're trying to solve, and all these questions which and eventually you're like spending time in the wrong place, where you could have spent time delivering more business value, which would have resulted in maybe more business success and whatnot.
Well, reality here is everything should be done by common sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are lost when we see something that we like a lot, but we should stop as developers and think, okay, what will be change if I'll do it? I want to work 1 week on the value ticket which could change and provide more successful application, or I will solve something. I will solve a real problem. Let's say there's optimization problems, there are development problems, as I mentioned in my example before. You could, by your refactoring, solve a maintainability issue, making adding new changes a lot faster instead of creating free-form migrations, adding 3 lines of code in the correct places.
Yeah.
Sometimes for this, when you are not experienced, you should have a mentor who already had his experience and he can see when you're making mistakes. In development, mentorship is missing,
Yeah.
but it's something that will benefit a lot the future specialists.
Is that a problem we have nowadays? There's not a lot of people mentoring.
I mean, mentoring by the helping to take best decisions based on their experience and sharing this experience. Because learning frameworks, learning
The way I personally look at frameworks, languages, all that is just solutions. Like we're solving problems, right? Like, yes, of course, a lot of the solutions that you're gonna pick up will very much depend on the language of choice, right? Like if you have a more popular language, most likely you'll have more supported, adopted libraries and whatnot. If you have like a statically typed brand new language, most likely you'll struggle in that area, right? It depends what solutions you choose. That's why you need to make an educated decision. But at the same time, those are all solutions, right? You pick the best solution for the right problem. At the same time, you mentioned mentoring, and I meant like more like people trying to, because I still remember those times when people would genuinely want you to get better, to become better. They would genuinely spend the time in code reviews, like expressing their thoughts, opinions of how you can become better. Now people don't care as much because like people should understand this idea that like a lot of the companies don't even take code review into like the effort. So when you estimate a ticket, right? Like how do you estimate the ticket? How much time it's going to take for you to deliver it, test it, and maybe some buffer, right? And at the same time, you're expecting that your code is going to be reviewed by somebody. So that person who spends the time reviewing your code can do it a lot quicker or really slow because of a lot of changes. Maybe what you did is complex and whatnot. And nobody takes that time into consideration. And when you have like an economy based on this rush, like we need to be fast, 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 deliver, use LLM, all of this at some point gets in your brain and you're like, why the fuck am I spending time trying to make everything better, trying to push back a little bit on mediocrity when this is not appreciated? I'm not being paid extra for this, and I just run into conflicts with other people. Why not just be more, let's say, indulgent and careless?
Well, on this point, the problem which you described is the real situation with all of the startups because they need to provide fast and to not see how this product will work in 2-3 years. But in the product companies about which we spoke before, comes other set of principles because they need their product to continue to work. It needs to be more easy maintainable because somehow if any change will take you a month, it's already a big smell of problems there. So some investment of additional time to make it more qualitative wins you in longer run.
Yeah, but some people, especially like, here's how managers look at this, right? So
Well,
you can do, let's say, a feature in 1 week, or you can do a feature in 1 day. The first case, let's say you do the feature with minimum bugs, you tested everything, you took your time, everything is perfect. In the second approach, you just don't care. You just push, it somehow works, it misses some things. Let's say 2 or 3 bugs come back in, and you backfill those with, let's say, missing implementation details, you fix the bugs and you push it. Let's say in the end, the amounting time for both of these features is 1 week. You did 1 week without bugs, he did 1 week totaling with the first, let's say, day doing the implementation, the other 5 days back and forth with bugs. Like as a manager, it seems like a lot more work. It seems like you've delivered fast. It seems like you've responded fast by fixing the bugs. But when you compare it in terms of the actual effort put in versus the potential damaging experience for the customer, who used the buggy product while you are trying to fix the bugs is not actually better. But some managers have other managers and they need to report, right? They do a bunch of reporting and they're like, we delivered this. Yeah, we have a few bugs, but who cares? Like, we're going to fix them, move on. And for them, it seems like you are good on paper as long as you deliver quick. Yeah, you can deliver with bugs, but you deliver quick. But for you as an engineer, it doesn't make sense because you're like, yes, but it's the same effort on paper. What if I say it's going to take a week and you do it and then a lot of bugs come in and in the end it takes 2 weeks because you had to fix the bugs, or you say it's going to take 2 weeks and there's no bugs. On paper, they're the same effort. In practice, when you say it's going to take longer, it's managers will make a weird look, say, why does it take this long? And yeah, as engineers, we don't understand that concept. But as managers, they look happy on paper.
Well, it's this description of reality which happens in multiple companies. Uh, it's also a place to get some experience. Just it will be a negative experience for you what to not search in job in future, because it can provide you a good financial benefits, but when you rush, it's a lot harder to understand really how the problem works and what is required from you. As exception, just when you have ticket where described everything what you need to do and you don't have any connection to the final customer, you don't know what it should be in the final. In this case, it's a simple reality. You don't even have to invest yourself because you don't work with the product itself. You have very small detail in the process.
If you look at what are the advantages of doing best practices, doing clean code, making everything maintainable, writing tests, writing documentation, all of that takes time. All of that has to go through a lot more pain, and nobody cares about that, it seems. You're not getting paid extra, you're spending more time than you should. Managers are asking you questions, you're reviewing your peers in code reviews and telling them to do the same thing to push code quality. And then, like, you look around you and you see that you're trying to bring some change, and that change is not appreciated. And a lot of the times it kills the, let's say, motivation within you to try to do that. And you're like, at some point, like, fuck it, if nobody cares, I'm not gonna care, like, what's the motivation for you to
Well,
care?
motivation personally for me, if we're using all clean code paradigms on this part, I am lazy on this part, and if I'm doing, I proceed with clean code approach, I can easily after it change. I can work a lot faster. I'm investing right now a bit more time, and after that, I'll do everything faster.
Yeah.
So it's one of the benefits, not just that it looks beautiful on paper. I think that what looks beautiful on paper will be kept alive for much long. If the approach really helps you as developer, refactoring this code, it solves for you problems of how you work in future, then mm, this kind of work will benefit for you.
But how can you tell the future is the question. You can't say if your project that you're working on is gonna survive for half a year, 2 years, or 5 years, right? So you don't know if you're gonna have that problem in the future. At the same time, you don't know if you're gonna get to that point. At the same time, you might not be in that project. You might get fired, laid off. At the same time, somebody else might be working on a feature which is related or connected to the code which you touched. They come in and they change the code. Like like everything is relative and changeable.
Something depends. For example, changing your code. Uh, on this point, it could be positive change when someone made it even more extensible, or he even adjusted based on the approach something. Instead of changing everything, he could extend already if it was written in the correct way.
Yeah.
But in case if you don't feel the stability of work, then yes, maybe it doesn't have sense to invest time in the quality if you don't see how you would benefit it. If you see, for example, that you have to work with this stuff for next 6 months, and you have always you'll touch this module. and it's complex as hell. Then at this point, instead of making your life pain, it's better to use a bit of time to refactor it in the process and then to have 6 years of pleasure of work instead of entering on the same rake over 6 months.
Have you at any point in your career been turned down a refactor? Have you ever been told, no, you're actually not gonna do refactor? Focus on that. And what was your response?
Yes, it was a few times. At
Yeah.
this point, it was not that I was pushing, I was proposing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember like that, but well, it was a proposal that we can do it. Uh, in some cases, when it's very important and I can win something from it in time and everything, I will push it till the end. And sometimes that is just a proposal because, well, it's nice to have. Let's say it takes one additional
In
day.
what cases you'll push it till the end?
When I don't want to have pain working with it, let's example, 6 months making uh, same volume of code, if I can simplify it and extend it easily.
But what if the manager comes to you and says, look, I don't care, we need it fast. Like, let's say the refactoring which you are trying to push is going to take a little bit longer. And let's say he wants something faster. Do
Well,
you close an eye on that, or how does it work?
well, in general, in these cases, most of cases I negotiated. I'm providing a fast, dirty solution,
Yeah.
but I'm receiving some time to fix it in time, covering with tests, with other stuff, because sometimes we need something fast is a normal way.
Yeah.
But we should not ignore this code and improve it in the end. At least this is my position when it has sense. If it is something dying, then you won't refactor a feature that you are seeing that it will be removed from the application in 2 months. You are
So,
refactoring something that you are really seeing that you have to work with it and it's pain to do.
so you mentioned this idea of pushing this until the end. I'm just wondering, have you run into conflicts because of that?
Maybe a few times, I don't remember already, but sometimes people are not very flexible and not trying to see all the image.
How do you push your ideas to people who don't either agree with your point, or they don't understand it, or they don't see value in what you're proposing? Because obviously you work with a team, and not everybody is on board with how you think, why you think something the way you think it, why something is necessary, why is it necessary now and not later in 6 months, for example. Like, how do you deliver your ideas across?
Well, in general, now in the smaller team, I don't have this kind of problems.
Yeah.
In a bigger team, when I was working, there were different moments. Most of the time, I could provide an arguments which uh, was very hard to counter.
Yeah.
Well, I have a good level of understanding of the code, how it works, and how it is related in the applications I work. So I could explain and show examples why it would be better. In most of the cases, well, people accepted my vision.
Do you go for people's approval, or sometimes are stubborn and do it your own way?
Well, I cannot force people
Yeah.
to write something else if they do not accept.
Yeah.
So I'm trying my best. Well, at the start of my career, I was a lot more assertive on these options. I think 6 years ago it was a bit easier for me. Well, I become more open to some stuff, let's say, but when I see there is a problem and something can be done better, I still would provide feedback and see what it will go.
Do
Yes, not
you
everything needs to be changed, but why to overcomplicate when something can be simplified?
do you sometimes close an eye on principles? Because we all have principles, but what I noticed is, especially with senior, like the more senior you get, at some point you've seen everything, you are kind of bored, you don't want stress, you want comfort. And us being in the comfort zone is also us not taking more action? Do you close an eye on some things?
As I said, from 6 years, I'm already closing eyes to some things, but still, I'm trying to keep the same way of code style on projects I'm working,
Yeah.
and mostly on the architectural way. If we are using the same kind of services, we won't invent a bicycle if we have something already prepared for this kind of functionality. If there is new idea,
Mhm.
when it comes, when is the place to add something, to invent something. Where is moment when people can control how brilliant they are.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not place when we have, let's say, all managers are written in the same way, and someone trying to push it's written in absolute different approach. Still, there could be some exceptions when some stuff are deprecated. Uh, exists time when you're using a library or something like that. You try to use it in all places, and then framework is not anymore alive. As example from PHP. And you need to change it. You need to find another solution because you don't want to see it on PHP 7.4 all the life with already PHP 8.1, 8.2, 8.5. So in this moment, you have to do something with it. You have to migrate to our solution. Or if your solution asks from you too much maintenance, then it means that something should be changed in the end. Then maybe you have to change it because investing every time to make small change hours, it means something is wrong with this small code which you thought, let's say, 5 years ago, that is ideal.
You mentioned this idea of you being more acceptive of things over the time. I'm wondering, is there one thing that you've strongly believed and over time changed your mind about?
I'd say my belief in people changed.
Yeah.
I was thinking at a specific moment that everyone can become a great programmer.
Yeah.
Working a lot of time with people, I understood that it's still based on some personal uh, character features,
Yeah.
which help someone to grow on the next level, and for someone it becomes a blocker on growing as a specialist. This one of the things that changed a lot for me.
But how did it change? Like, did you change the way you see people, or like what exactly changed?
I changed what I believe that people can achieve.
For the better or for the worse?
A bit for the worse, sincerely. Well, it's I think I have already 10 or almost 10 years of experience working.
So you
And
believe some people will never grow?
maybe, I had that vision in my second, third year. Everyone can become a great programmer. We just need to invest time. We just want to do it.
What's a great programmer? What's a great software engineer compared to a good one, in your opinion?
There are a lot of good engineers, but the great one, he likes what he is doing. He gets pleasure in the work.
I would say it's passion.
Yes. The passionate programmer grows.
Can somebody be overzealous, over passionate, especially
I
when
didn't encounter it.
especially when they're just starting? They
Uh,
just want to change everything and everywhere.
well, about people who learn a new tool and want to apply it on all places is also similar with golden hammer rule. Maybe it has another anti-pattern. It's a thing which changes with time. You have more experience. At some points, I could be like that when I was starting. I was wanting to improve everything, and now I'm improving everything that matters because this code that takes too much time to change. Then here comes refactoring because
Do,
I want to do things faster.
do you think coding skills is the most important thing for a software engineer?
No, I think coding is thing that can be achieved.
Yeah.
You can practice, you can do. One important moment is understanding. You need to understand the code. You need to read the code, understand how it works. From that, everything simplifies. I have seen people who doesn't understand what happens, and from that they cannot find a good solution for trivial problems. If someone can read code, he can understand it. It's the main step to go to become a good programmer. He can not have passion, but he still can become a good programmer.
What if he has passion for
Mhm.
building software, building solutions, and whatnot, and maybe he's not as competent of a programmer? How do you look at that? He is really passionate
What do
about,
you mean by not competent as programmer?
for example, with the help of LLMs, a lot of like there's a big wave of emerging. Let's say you're a product manager. Let's say you're somebody who has an idea. Let's say you're somewhat involved in the technical field, in the IT industry, but you don't necessarily know how to code in PHP or in Python or in JavaScript. You LLM yourself into, I don't know, building a software. Let's say you have an idea, a grand idea, which nobody has pushed on the market. You built it using no code tools and whatnot. It gives you a somewhat working solution. And you have this passion for building. You just want to see something on the market. You have no idea of what clean code is. You have no idea of design patterns, like all of that. Like even the code which was generated, you don't fully understand.
Well,
Do you see that as a net positive or net negative value overall?
in general, this kind of people were even before LLMs, but they were starting writing everything on PHP 4, for example. These are the people who are creating jobs. They're creating an idea,
Yeah,
and after that, they do not remain in 80% of cases in programming. They becoming
true.
the SEO on something else, and they're hiring people to do something with their not ideal solution, something that is maintainable and that can provide more.
So are you pro builders then?
I consider them as important part of of a project. I consider builders should at specific moment to give it to the specialist who can maintain the project,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I will say personally, a lot of developers don't have a good ideas how to get a new business, or do not have that risk in them.
What about the other type of builders? Let's say you're a builder, but you don't want to go management, right? You just want to build stuff quickly without getting too technical. Let's say you quickly want to see immediate results. That's what gives you pleasure, but you don't want to fully take all the dogmatic practices which are involved when it comes to building software, right? That means sometimes cutting corners. That means sometimes not giving a shit about patterns and whatnot, just making things work.
So you mean a person who knows all of the things, but he doesn't want just to work with it.
Yeah, let's say either he doesn't want to know them or he doesn't care because he built something like he achieved his goal. I want to build a game. I don't care what the code does, or I do care what the code does, but I don't care how the code looks like or how it reads, right? I care that I implement something and I did it fast. I pushed it on the market. I moved on to the next thing.
Till it's a product, and a product which is sold, I think it's fine because this person represented his idea.
Yeah.
The problem with this kind of work is when it gets new people and forces them to work in the same way, because it's
I mean, it can happen also in company. Let's say you're not building your product. Let's say you're working on a product. And let's say, I don't know, the company has a more of a flexible style, right? Let's say there's no rules in place. Like everybody kind of has the flexibility of writing stuff, right? And there are people who like dogmatic practices, rules, and whatnot. And there are people who like it more flexible because it allows them to be more productive. Like, what's your opinion of those people who like I don't like rules, I don't like boundaries, I don't like these best practices because they just take more time. Like for instance, writing tests, right? Writing tests alone is usually 2/3 of the actual time spent doing the work, which
well,
is way more time spent on testing what you did instead of doing the next thing which you're supposed to do. So some people say, fuck that, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend the time on doing that because it's a good practice. There's of course value in that. I'm not going to argue against it, but some people think that way.
in general, these two kind of people do not get well together. So because they both are pushing in different ways.
Yeah.
So these kind of people should work in different teams. It's the most efficient way to use resources. Because more people who don't care better work with other people who don't care. People who wants to have, let's say, organized code in a specific way with some rules, they need only people who accept their vision. So they are working faster in this kind of teams because they organizing and creating a product that is easy to maintain. Of course, it's easy to maintain for them because they are keeping these rules, and for them, it's a lot easier and faster to work with it.
Yeah.
For a new person who is cutting corners, entering in this one, he won't see the benefits because he always can push something and it will work. So it's not a good idea always to combine with people. It's better to have separated teams and to work on different matter.
So there's value in that as well, you're saying?
Yes, we different approach. Everyone can have this kind of products. I would say people who are cutting corners are a lot better in the startups because they can provide a lot of stuff faster. If you would go and make a new product, a new revolutionary product, and you know that someone also works on it, if you start making it with all the rules and other stuff,
Most likely you're not going to push it to the market.
yes,
Yeah.
someone will be faster. For startups, is important this kind of speed. After that come price of adjustments, where if business wants to have his change faster, he'll have to invest a bit in refactoring for people who can maintain it. A lot of times, this kind of people who you mentioned, with age, they also change, and they already are seeing benefit in different approach because they become slower, and they when they need to come to the same code, let's say over a year, and every time they are understanding that I forgot how it works and I don't understand what this variable BC is meaning, it somehow also provide them understanding that something needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Well, there exist people who can remember everything, but they are
Have
unique.
you had the opportunity to work with such people, and how it's like? Because you mentioned the idea of ideally they should be part of different team, but what if they're not? What if they're part of your team? How do you deal with them?
Oh, it's very hard question. I am not sure if I had this kind of people.
Yeah.
I had one case when a person was complaining on a small change that was requested by a testing team, and in short time he left the company because we were too dogmatic, for example.
Yeah.
Maybe this person was this kind, but it was not more than 2-3 months, so it's hard for me to understand.
Are you for more rules or for less rules?
I'm uh, for the clean code, so the code should be improved. Opportunities when you have, it should not take months to do
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
but if you can, you should improve. Because, well, if you are not planning to leave, let's say tomorrow, and you see value remaining in the company, when it's, let's say, not company, the project, when it has a lot of sense to invest in this quality because you're helping yourself. If you have problems understanding the code, as I said, these kind of people have problems everywhere, and it's not a question about time investment, everything. They'll have problems with any kind of situation.
Since you're dealing a lot with seniors, people following dogmas, rules, best practices, and whatnot, a lot of the times these people have a hard time adapting to new things, new trends, new ways of thinking, of doing things. What would you say is maybe one thing which seniors in 2025 should unlearn? Meaning, if they take it out of their brain, their practices, maybe they'll be better performers. Maybe they will, I don't know, benefit companies, businesses more.
It's very hard question. I would say that most easier is just to see what happens on the global science part of this. Let's as example of something that was very popular in I think 10 years ago, and right now it looks bad. Uh, Dependency inversion principle, where everyone was creating interfaces. For everything, you were creating an interface. There were a time when everything you would do, you would create initially interface, and after that, you would bind them with some uh, dependency injectors and some other stuff, containers. In reality, these kind of situations are so minor. So if you would find more sources, you'll see that it's almost an anti-pattern now, because you need to add interface when you really need. In other case, it's overbloating your code with useless interfaces. We have a single implementation.
I meant more like, let's say, productivity, right, for the company. So a lot of, like, what I've noticed with myself at least is a lot of the times, because you have all of these dogmas, rules in your head, you're not very flexible, right? And you push back against how things should be done. And there's a place for, as you mentioned, there's a place for improvements, and there's a place for fast, for speed, for
Mhm.
delivery. And a lot of the times, this is what stays, like, this is the line between seniors and, let's say, juniors to middle. Like, they will have a way higher tolerance to bullshit, to things which we consider not according to the best practices, right? At the same time, they are pushing more value in terms of things you can touch on the business side, because they don't have to go through all these filters which we have. So in that sense, like, if we can unlearn some of these practices, maybe we were to go back into being more flexible. Because the funny thing is, you start as a junior, you are like a sponge, right? You absorb everything from everyone. Best practices, not so best practices. Like, you see things around you happening and you just absorb it. And then as you progress, you see that something is good to be done, something is bad, something is a good practice, something is not a good practice. Then you start to build your own set of rules, set of filters, right?
Mhm.
And as you move on in your career, you're progressing, you have an image of how a project should look like, of how good software should look like. And you reject everything else. You reject the premise of trying something new because you think something is good only in this way. And in that sense, I was thinking, is there anything we should unlearn as people with experience, years of experience behind our backs?
Well, we still need to be always open-minded.
Yeah.
It's a reality. You cannot refuse the new technologies. You need to see what's. But there still should be a balance, because someone comes to you and says, "Okay, let's now add to your simple CRUD application CQRS," which is a very complex matter, which won't be used in general, but for that person is a new tool, and that person can add it very fast. But price of maintaining it will be very, very much, very, very high. Why should you accept it? In same part, someone could come and say, "Okay, we were working with this kind of service. To deliver a new functionality based on it takes 2 weeks. Let's refactor it, rewrite it now to a better service, which will allow us to make any change in 1 week."
I really like what one of my previous guests said, which is problems should dictate solutions and not the other way around. Meaning, we first identify what is the problem we have. Let's say delivering faster is a problem. Let's say performance is a problem. Let's say, I don't know, user experience is a problem. Let's say transactions across services is a problem. Microservices is a problem. You identify that problem and then you figure out the solution. And a lot of the times, because of these best practices, and this is the good way of doing it, this is the bad way of doing it, you immediately see a problem which you should fix. And it might not be the case. You immediately see that, hey, I need to implement this pattern because it's cool. I need to implement this, use this library or this framework because it's cool. When in reality, there is no problem that library or solution will solve, but you just want to do it because it's cool. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. It's not a way how things should be done. The patterns are tools. So at the specific moment when you need to solve an issue, you understand, okay, this pattern will help me to solve this issue when it comes in hand, not just because you want to add it somewhere. So still there should be a problem which is solved. I agree fully on this part.
Yeah, let's maybe go back on AI a little bit. Do you think over time, all of these patterns, all of these best practices will matter? And how much of code generation will be, I don't know, how much of code will really be written by us in the future? Are we going to lose our jobs? Like there's this idea of developers losing their jobs to AI, to automation. How how much are you a believer in that idea?
For businesses who did not enter it in full understanding of how it works, yes, they will lay out people without keeping the important roles. As I said, an AI tool can replace a middle programmer because, say, a senior having all his knowledge of the system using an AI can use it as a middle programmer who would create with him a functionality,
Yeah.
and it would do it a lot faster. Because if person is just writing the code, it takes more time than it would be generated by AI. And as you would write comments to that person about that fix here, fix here, fix here, same you could do with AI on this part.
Yeah.
But still, AI is not at that level to understand all requirements and all context of the full project.
Will it get to that level?
Maybe, I don't know. It's a question about how it will evaluate. Someone saying that the next progress will be on the quantum computer. Someone says is that it come from our part. We don't know right now. But from what I have seen, till the AI doesn't have that moment of small consciousness, allowing it to keep all the information I loaded in it, because what is happening, my experience from ChatGPT assistants, it was starting a new session and sometimes it was starting writing me code in Python, where is in all commands, everything I write on that is PHP programmer.
Yeah.
So it's an error of a level how it understood how that it should work. Resetting the session provide me a lot better results. But this session which provide me better results, let's say in few hours, will be reset. And I lost all the good experience as like a real person could provide. If we will achieve that level that it will have conscience and it will be able to learn by its mistakes and keep it, say, in the same part working over days, then it will be a moment when a lot of developers could lose their job. The moment I need to find uh, that session that it will work for me is a still moment that it's not ideal product. But sometimes it will come. Still, I don't think they'll be able uh, to work with people as well or joke about it. But all developers will keep their jobs because clients cannot explain their requirements.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here is still a part where developers still will work, but yes, some of the part of work will be always done by AI. But it depends what will happen next. If there's two moments that can affect it, the bubble, if it will change price, if you have to pay 10,000 for this kind of helper, it won't have sense. So
Yeah.
we most likely, but it could grow from 10 to $100, for example. It's already won't be a same price for everyone. Someone will not be able to afford it. It's one way of what can happen. Or the second one, there was some discussion about adding some additional uh, taxing for companies using AI. So it also could change a bit level of
Taxing, you mean?
well, there were some articles about that some of big companies are trying to push people to pay for their AI assistants and so on. So companies will pay a bit more money, which will pay in the from taxes from people they fired. They'll have to pay because they're using AI agents instead.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Uh,
but who is that,
well,
like a compensation lost for the laid off people?
something like that because
But it's more of a one
countries
time thing.
not so. Companies was generating profits to their states by paying taxes for salaries.
Yeah, it reminds me of Adobe and YouTube when they started training their models on the content generated by people. Everyone immediately revolted, but then nobody changed anything about it. They still do it, and nobody cares. Yeah. Do we maybe need more regulation around AI and how it's being
Well,
used?
no, something should happen already. Some countries are working on it because it's not just, let's say, AI writing code, it's AI replacing people, speaking instead of people. A lot of people who did not provided their consent are used in videos, in specific kind of ads,
Yeah.
and that people didn't provide any consent, but their voice to be used there. Let's say about the actors which with deep fakes are doing anything.
I mean, it depends how you look at that solution, I would say, because you could use it both as a way of scaling your own work, but then the question is how genuine and true the work is. Because, like, you could, let's say, because I've seen this idea once of somebody, I think it was, what was the guy's name from the Black Panther who was diagnosed with cancer?
Okay, I understand
Yeah,
about who you're
anyways,
speaking. I also don't remember
anyway,
his
the
name.
guy who was diagnosed of cancer from Black Panther, they wanted to, I think, redo it and use AI generated video basically to bring him back. Like he's
Yeah.
no longer, but they wanted to bring him back using, like, I support these kind of initiatives, but at the same time you need to be cautious of being impersonated, of deep fakes and whatnot. And that's obviously a problem which needs to be
Mm.
regulated.
Yes, I agree. There should be permission from the people who would be used for this kind of functionality. One of the case when I thought that looks fine is the Mandalorian second or third season when they made the actor playing Luke Skywalker younger with this kind of tools.
Yeah, I think I've seen that with, was it the Avengers when they made Captain America look extremely old?
I'm not sure that they used AI for this purpose.
It was some kind of CGI for sure, but yeah,
I don't think it was done with the AI at this part because AI progressed a bit later. It was not the moment when it become trend.
yeah, yeah,
At this moment, the best deepfakes was like the movie Shining with Jim Carrey instead of Jack Nicholson.
yeah,
At that year, I was seeing this, and it was the high level of what it can achieve at that moment.
yeah. But doing it in movies, like the idea behind these deepfakes is you have to supply enough data so it knows. Like if the subject of, like, you can, let's say, play this card with popular figures, right?
Mhm.
But obviously you need a lot more data. Like you can do it on the movie because a movie has a lot of pictures. If you trim it down like frames per picture, you can feed a lot of data to AI basically. But
Mhm.
when it comes to regular people,
Well, regular
yeah,
people are not mostly touched by it. They could be scammed out of it in the later.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
let's say how to scam a person, register some of calls with him, let's say, give that voice of that person.
phishing has never died yet.
Yes.
Yeah,
So this kind of stuff will happen. Not video one. The voice is still enough. If you have person who wants to use you, you cannot stop it.
yeah, yeah. That's obviously a concern. at the same time. Um, I am like a bit like you. I'm not. At least it wasn't the case 3 years ago when the whole AI boom started. I was skeptical. I obviously used LLMs. I used Copilot, still used to the day. I use different LLMs, even have Olama server, have my own models. Like all of that is nice and fun games. At the same time, I'm keeping an eye on the landscape, trying to see if I'm not missing anything. But overall, I have become more positive. I would say I am happy for what the tools offer you, for the fact that you can be more productive. And maybe I don't look as positive towards the whole idea of replacing people and having machines instead of us. Because everything you build for people, by people, maybe less involved manual labor, but still done by people, I would say.
I agree on this part. Mostly, most likely will now appears a problem with juniors, and it will grow over years, and maybe it will be hard to find a job as junior. But if you find, you'll have to deliver that you are that person who can become a middle, because before there was a lot of people who was hired as juniors just to do some stuff, not because they can, but because it can be pushed to them, and they'll do something and people was not caring.
Yeah, the interesting part about the ages we live in now is we as people started to maybe value people more because everything is so automated. Like you receive a message on LinkedIn, you don't know if it's from a real person or from a bot. You read an article, you don't know if it was generated or if it's somebody who wrote it. You are seeing a video, you don't know if it's generated or for real.
Yes, it's our reality right now. Just about articles, if it is written in good way, it doesn't important if it is AI or not, if it is delivers the message. But if it is
For
not
me,
delivering
it's
messages, there are good chances that it's just AI.
For
Which
me, it matters because writing is like any other form of art and creation. You put your soul and your time into that so that you connect with the other person who's reading it, right? You write a book, it very much matters that that book was written by
uh,
you.
yes,
Maybe it was automated, checked, spell checked, and whatnot, checked by AI. But I would very much rather prefer to connect with somebody who is genuine, who makes mistakes, who is human, who is flawed, than with somebody who is perfect and trying to appeal to my senses and to my emotions and whatnot.
yes, I agree. Part of what I mentioned about articles is about technical articles.
Even technical articles have a touch of, I would say, personal flavor,
On
which AI might not agree with, might not
Okay, I understand.
see those.
Just from my vision, I am getting only information from technical articles, and I don't care how they were generated till they provide correct data. And for AI, it's very easy to understand when, for example, it writes the best patterns for latest version of Laravel, and it
Yeah,
speaking
but that's more
everything.
of a that's the general stuff. I'm talking more about, let's say, it's technical, but more on the philosophical side. Like, for example, for instance, how to, I don't know, what are like the faults or the mistakes projects make or mistakes in software and whatnot. And you might see them as mistakes because you've had enough experience with them, but an AI will only see it as a mistake if it's popular enough, it's mentioned way too many times, if it's been indexed in its database and whatnot. Which, yeah, like a lot of the times it comes down to what exactly went into training that model.
I will agree on this part. General, the human interaction always will be better when speaking with the bot or getting something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
From interesting part which I encountered, I was writing, let's say, an email for some persons, and I was checking there was a limit of characters
Yeah.
because it was a form which I have submitted. I was entering in one tool which was counting number of characters because, well, I googled it. And I found that it counts number of character that it outside of numbering number of characters, it tries to accumulate how much AI is present in my writing. I wrote everything by myself, but on majority of text, it was 50-60% considered that it was written by AI, which I thought, okay, it's or something wrong with me or something wrong with this application.
Yeah, no, that's exactly my problem. When I receive a messages, I'm like, yeah, thanks ChatGPT, but actually in my CV, there's no job experience with Python. Like, why are you looking for Python developers? I'm not one of them. Like, do your own research at
Mhm.
least before texting people. But I understand that it's a bot which automates everything
Mhm.
and it's just texting everyone in their connection, and that's how it works. Yeah, maybe to go on a closing. I was wondering, is there anything you do outside work? Because we've been talking about work. Anything
Oh,
which
I
excites
am
you?
playing some intellectual games with some quizzes in Romanian, and from Russian part, I'm going to Saint Twins Detectives show. It's also a time of game which you can play a detective, which I like a lot.
Are table games boring?
Board games, do you mean?
Yeah, board games.
Yes, I like them a lot, and I have a lot of board games for detective. Just my wife is too busy to play them with me.
Can they be, because I play them, but not all of them are fun. Would you say some of them are boring, or do you need to have the minimum number of people, the right
Well,
company?
one of the important stuff is right company, because there are people who likes complex games. I like a lot of complex games, like Arkham Horror, where a game can take 2-3 hours
Yeah.
at the best.
Those.
And it's not for everyone. There are people who like this kind of stuff. Yes, it's a lot of rules and other stuff, but it provides you a story about something that happens. So you can live with that characters.
Yeah, but the build up to that story, it's like I like it like this the Counter Strike way, like
Mhm.
shoot,
Well,
start over.
yes, but for other type of peoples, there is faster games which favor you fast pace. So 10 minutes and next part. For
Yeah, they like
example,
to build up this porn script in their head, and it takes like 2 fucking hours,
Mhm.
and then somebody wins the game after 2 hours. And you need at least 4 people, if I'm not mistaken, if you want to play like any decent board game.
You mean about hard board games?
Like any game, like if you take Catan or any normal game out there you want to play, you need at least 4 people. Otherwise, it's not
Three,
playable.
four, I would say.
Yeah.
About the fast games, for example, Exploding Kittens is a very fast game for 2 to 4 or 3 to 4 people, which also go fast and you can play more games. So it very depends with whom you are playing. If you like one type of games, you need to find people who likes this kind of games.
Yeah. I do play them sometimes with my brother and my family. It's fun, and every single time they bring like new games, I'm like, oh, interesting, and then forget about it. Yeah, but like you said, I guess the right company can change everything. Is there anything in your life that brings you meaning, purpose?
I would separate it in two matters. One of them, my personal life, it's my wife,
Yeah,
who changed my life a lot. And on the working part, I consider it's a lot give me a lot of motivation. But I am working with people. I'm not a small tool in the process, but I'm working with real people as I'm part of a product company. So I'm
yeah.
doing it for someone. It motivates a lot to provide better solutions and to satisfy their needs.
I had way more questions before we started the show, but as always, I don't get to touch all of them because there's too much to talk about, too little time. But I maybe want to end on a closing question, which would be, what is your final piece of advice for anyone who's watching? Whether they're developers watching this, managers watching this, people who are just curious about software development in general?
Well, it would be a bit of my personal pain on this part. Well, I have some experience and I'm still in PHP. It's a point where I did miss some opportunities going to other languages. I still think that I will have opportunities to work with something else. maybe it won't be next year, but maybe in 1 or 2. On this part, I recommend to be attentive what loyalty you provide, because a lot of time people can you easily betray.
Yeah.
Because yes, they are saying to you a lot of good things, but in the end, they don't need you anymore. While if you are more loyal to yourself, you can grow a lot as specialist and find all other opportunities later.
I would subscribe to that 100%. Once again, thank you for joining. But I will not close the show before we do the honors. So the tradition of the show is the guest who comes over and picks the drink of choice as wine. I typically try to bring every single time, unless I run out of choices, try to bring 2 choices of wine. So we had Gitana and we had Sol, whatever it's called, Sol Negro. Yes, from Asconi. So one was Fitească, the other one was Rară Neagră. So which one is your choice? You have to choose a bottle. So whichever one you liked more goes with you.
I would rather go with Gitana binary.
That's a good choice. I would say I tried it for the first time, really liked it, and I'll have more of it after the show. Yeah. Cool. Good choice. And once again, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I'd love to have another one as soon as we have the opportunity again. And yeah, it's been my pleasure.
Mine too. Thank you a lot for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. This was the Unstaged, the After Hours edition. Keep your minds open and your source unstaged.